Here we are back at the 2012 Ultra Race of Champions, bringing you live broadcast video coverage, different segments of the course on race day by Bad the Bone Media. We're picking up the action back at Wintergreen Resort. Here's a great shot of Ellie Greenwood, the reigning Western States champion from this year. This is Sage, Canaday, and Max. They'd gotten off lost about 4 minutes earlier in the race, and they're working their way through Wintergreen. They've been working pretty hard to get back up to the front. They were running about 4th and 5th at this point in this segment. There's Frank Gonzalez making his way up the trail. One thing you're going to find about Wintergreen Resort, it is tough. I mean, we're talking about pavement here, so it's not gnarly single track. There's Ian Sharman right there in the blue and white. Ian is actually the world record holder for trail 100-mile distance, I think, in a time of 12:44. So through our Wintergreen, it goes up and down. This is Shinji from Japan, the former champion at 100K road. But they're making their way through the resort, and it's tough. I mean, you see Alistair Gardner here from Canada. But then there's Jorge Maravilla. He is always happy. You'll see throughout the day, he's smiling whether he feels good or not. You know, we never quite know, but Jorge's always going to be having a good time running for Team Solomon. Giving a big hug to Scott McCoubrey from Scott Shoes, our friends. There I am, barely getting in the shot. I think they edit me out of some of these things. But Alistair going through. This was actually, again, kind of on the opposite side of Wintergreen, so we're trying to make our way completely out of the resort. In this segment, as I mentioned, we're going to be covering about miles 10 through 22. That'll include Wintergreen here at the summit. We'll be working our way over to Reed to about mile 15. Here's Ellie Greenwood winning Queen of the Mountain at Wintergreen Summit. She could care less right now because she's only about 10 miles into the race. So she's going to be quick in and quick out. Wintergreen, again, is a real great mixture. You have single track trail, everything. Steps that are a little wet today from rain last night. There's Dominic Grossman from Bend, Oregon, chasing Pat McGlade over the wet steps again. Ian Sharman's finally found some downhill in Wintergreen along with Shinji. And they're making their way finally down to the bottom of Wintergreen Resort before we start this big climb. So in a minute, we'll see runners making their way out of Wintergreen. Here's Santana from Brazil making his way along out through the entrance. We'll go from the entrance of Wintergreen along Highway 664, which is just a major climb. You have about a 1 mile segment where they face probably about a 900-foot climb up pavement. So it gets to be tough. Here you have Alistair in the foreground with Santana in the rear. That was David Riddle, followed closely by Nick Clark, and then behind him is Jordan McDougall from the North Face. This is that point. As you just saw, they're going to be making their way up this road. That'll take them up to their third aid station, about mile 15. Here's Dave Mackey. He's making his way up this climb. It's tough. Beautiful background, a little fog and mist. He's now at Reed's Gap. He's leading at this point. Flying through the aid station, he has a handler there. He's basically just shouting, I'm good, and I'm gone. This is David Riddle, who just broke the JFK course record this past year that had been in place, I think, for 17, 18 years. This is Loporo and Garner, Maravilla, and Max King. What's happened there is Max King is finally making his way back up through the field. As I mentioned, he lost about 4 minutes earlier in the race, he and Sage Canaday. And you see them starting to slowly pick back up through the field and making their way back up to the front of the pack. Again, David Riddle making his way back along the Blue Ridge Parkway. This, again, is kind of that grunt where they're just hammering, kind of coming up to this next checkpoint at Reed's Gap, mile 15. That's where you finally enter the Blue Ridge Parkway, and you transition from a highway surface here to the Blue Ridge Parkway. The Blue Ridge Parkway, for those of you who don't know, runs about 250 miles from Virginia through North Carolina and so forth. There's Sage Canaday, as I mentioned. He's making his way back through the field, passing Alistair Garner as he makes his way back up into Reed's Gap. He kept good spirits. I talked to Sage. He said, I just made a quick little turn that I shouldn't have made, both he and Max. But they were hammering to get back in it. A little bit of fog. Here comes Shinji entering the fog. The day's kind of going in and out early on. It's really perfect running weather. It's probably no more than about 63, 65 degrees. Cool, overcast. There's Dominic Grossman stopping at Reed's Gap, mile 15 again. getting something to eat and drink, followed by Pat McGlade into that aid station. They're going to transition. There's Scott Jaime from Pearl Azumi. And there's Ellie. Ellie's leading the women's race. I know we haven't seen the second the second female yet. Ellie's put a pretty big gap. So our film crews are following the leaders. There's Dave Mackey. Dave is leading right now. He's on the Blue Ridge Parkway. He's followed very closely by David Riddle. There's David powering through. Another great shot of Ellie, that smooth stride, and always Scott Jaime with a great smile on his face. Here we go. People are starting to kind of bunch up on the Blue Ridge Parkway. You see some of the guys that really love to run roads, really stretching it out a little bit. Again, Jorge, he's never one to leave a smile ungiven. Now they're coming up to an area pretty soon called White Rock Gap. And this is where, look, there's Max King and Sage on the right. They're catching back up to Nick Clark and Jordan McDougal. They've worked their way back up to the front of the field. Now they're trying to get up to David Riddle and Dave Mackey. There's David Riddle. Mackey, and they have flip-flopped here. They're entering the White Rock Trail. There's Mackey. Now we're at mile 22, and they're going to hit some great single track, and they're going to fly down about a mile plunge. And as you see, Sage has already cut well into a lead, followed by Nick Clark. So now you have, there's Jorge jumping over a few of our East Coast rocks, followed by Alistair Gardner, Ian Sharman, hopping down the White Rock Falls Trail, again at mile 22. They're going to head down to the bottom of this. It's kind of what we call an East Coast canyon. Few decorations from our aid station crew there. Some nice October spider webs put in the trees. You see the White Rock Falls Trail. We got people dressed in pumpkins helping some of our helping Ellie Greenwood as she makes her way out of the aid station. She's going to work her way over. Now they're up to the slacks. This is kind of just a transition point where they go from one trail to another trail. And there you go. There's Max King. He's caught back up almost to the leaders. You saw him right behind Dave Mackey and David Riddle, followed by Nick Clark. Nick's making his way down through. They're going down the slacks to overlook. There's Jorge, as always, having a lot of fun, followed by Jordan McDougal, number 10. Again, they're going down the slacks trail. They're about mile 22 or so into the race. They're going to be going from here into a really neat section, and we'll see you at the third part, picking it back up at Ball Mountain.